News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Denise Pellegrini. President Trump says he could offer some exemptions to his 10% tariffs on most U.S. trading partners, but he also says 10% is a floor for nations seeking to negotiate trade deals. And the president also says he's hopeful about U.S.-China trade issues. The two are locked in a trade war, with China retaliating today to new U.S. tariffs. And as investors watch for the U.S. to cut trade deals with individual countries, we're learning about this. Just hours before he suspended those 10% tariffs for 90 days this week, President Trump promised Karine Keller-Sutter, the head of state and finance minister of Switzerland, to re-examine the tariffs imposed on her country. And she tells us this was her message to Trump.
We would like to talk about how, in fact, we can come back to a normal basis of tariffs together. And we both agreed that we have to find a solution.
And Keller-Sutter also tells Bloomberg's Oliver Crook in Warsaw, Swiss companies invest heavily in the U.S. and need a signal to ensure the security of their investments in the next few years. U.S. stocks closed higher yesterday, and on the week the gains were massive, but the volatility this past week did unnerve many investors. Sarah Hunt, chief market strategist at Alpine Woods Capital Investments.
I think all of us are trying to figure out what's been going on underneath the surface and or the size of some of these moves, how problematic that is, because so many firms have levered up more and more as we've had less volatility, and then you get volatility that is off the charts, and you have to think that there are some reactions to that, and some of those are going to be people making a lot of money, and some of them are going to be the opposite.
And Hunt on the Bloomberg Surveillance podcast, which you can download wherever you get your podcast. Possible deal in finance. We're hearing private equity firm GTCR is nearing a deal to buy OSTTRA. That's a venture that conducts post-trade services in the foreign exchange and derivatives markets. It could be a $3.2 billion deal, according to sources. The Chicago firm beat out rivals after preempting the auction process from the sale, which could be announced as soon as next week. And Bloomberg's Aaron Kirchfeld broke the story and says it would be a standout deal right now.
GTCR and all private equity firms are looking for assets and targets that are somewhat Trump and tariff proof. So this business is all about trading. They do kind of the post-trade services for foreign exchanges and derivatives. Volatile markets mean there's a lot of trading going on. It's not a manufacturing business that's particularly impacted by the tariffs. So I think that's the most interesting thing about this deal, is that, getting deals done right now is not easy. But the fact that GTCR preempted the final bidding of the auction process shows they were very, very keen and eager to get this asset.
And Kirchfeld also says talks are ongoing and details may still change. President Trump's administration reportedly planning an executive order to allow the stockpiling of critical metals from the Pacific seabed, according to the Financial Times, which says there's a broader push to fast-track deep-sea mining applications under U.S. law, and the stockpile of the metals, including traces of rare earth minerals, is being considered as part of that effort. Citing people familiar with the matter, the report also says it would give U.S. access to an inventory of critical minerals in its own territory in case of a conflict with China. Tariff fallout continues. Now there's word you could soon see surcharges on your next receipt. Bloomberg's Nancy Lyons has more on that.
More and more businesses are adding what they're calling Trump tariff surcharges to receipts to show their customers where the price hikes are coming from. Such finger-pointing fees will likely alienate some customers, so their use may be limited. Still, some business owners say adding the line item to the bill is a sign of transparency and gives President Trump credit for his tariff decisions. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
President Trump says he underwent and passed a cognitive exam during his latest physical.
I took a cognitive test, and I don't know what to tell you other than I got every answer right.
Trump to reporters there. He says more details on the test will come out tomorrow. Some possible big developments ahead for gamers. More on that from Bloomberg's Karen Moskow.
The video game industry may be getting the answer to a question that's been asked for at least a decade.
Who is going to become the Netflix for video games? And I guess Netflix was just like, well, we should become the Netflix for video games.
That's Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, author of the Game On newsletter. Netflix recently gave an update on its evolving video game strategy. strategy. And while the focus for its game developers is broad, there are key changes, including a shift away from high-fidelity games for PlayStation and Xbox.
They're focused a little bit more on games that fit within the Netflix app that might be more akin to games you would play on your phone than the latest big budget Call of Duty.
And say goodbye to those annoying ads.
So they're saying no ads, no in-game microtransactions, which is a really big deal.
And you can expect more games based on Netflix shows and movies as the company looks to find the next big video game hit. Karen, Moskow, Bloomberg Radio.
And in sports, today it's round 3 of the Masters at Augusta National. Justin Rose atop of the leaderboard, followed by Bryson DeChambeau, then Rory McIlroy and Corey Connors. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Denise Pellegrini, and this is Bloomberg.